Okay, good evening, guys. Welcome to the second community call. The first one was held last month, which Godspower also gave us a very brief intro into open source, right? Which he used only Dust to tell us about how we can contribute to open source project on Starknet. But after the call, it felt like we can actually go in depth into why and how open source, like why is actually quite important. And yeah, there's actually a lot of advantage when it comes to open source projects. I mean, it leads to collaboration and you can build solid community with that. I mean, there's transparency and there's also a whole lot of advantages, right? So we are going to have Godspower tell us a bit more about this. I mean, why is important and also Godspower, you have the floor now.
Yeah, thank you. So good evening, everyone. Like you said, last month we had a call basically on how to use Only Dust. Um, and Only Dust is basically a platform that connects you to projects that want to do that wants people to contribute, and they want to pay developers to contribute to their open source projects. So Open Dust serves like an intermediary between two of you, and it's Only Us is really good. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend some time talking about why you should do open source and why open source is important. Some minutes, I'll spend some time talking about why you should do open source. Then I'll take you through some of the projects that I've contributed to and how I did it, right? Yeah. So why open source? Why is open source a thing? What are the benefits of doing open source, right? Why why should we even care about it, right? Why should we be spending our time? Okay. During the call, as I'm going through this project, I'll be sharing the link. So this is like an informal setting. I'm not like sharing slides. I'm just like sharing my experiences with you. What I've benefited from open source and how show you how I've been able to do it so far. So first of all, why open source? Why do we care about open source? Why should we be spending our time doing open source? Why is it even important? So I think open source is is a very big advantage to any developer. Just for the fact that you could see a code base as big as or as sophisticated as the Ethereum clients just out in the open, right? No one is telling you that you need to get into it's not secret information, right? So what we are used to is like everybody keeps their software inside and nobody can see. Like there are a lot of projects on GitHub, right? Like there are a lot of projects on GitHub that are private, which is fine, right? But then you have code bases like the Ethereum, the Get Ethereum clients, the Bitcoin node. These codes are open source. They are just there. So it's more like if you say you want to become like this Chad, you can just decide that you want to dedicate a long time to these code bases. And honestly, if you immerse yourself in those code bases, you become a changed person in terms of an engineer. I'm not exaggerating. I'm literally telling you that if you say you want to immerse yourself inside these code bases for a very long time, you see how much you grow as an engineer. So first and the most important is the exposure to things that you don't normally see, right? So in the time past, seeing codes like Get, Google Eats, or seeing code like this, like the one that was just open source by Starkware, Stoneprover, these things are really complex softwares that you not normally see outside, right? You literally have to get you literally have to work at those companies to even to be able to see their code base, right? But right now you're seeing it for free on GitHub, or maybe Facebook, they are releasing like their different AI tools, open source, right? It's more like it is a very good way to expose yourself to hard things or expose yourself to things you have not seen before or things you would normally need to work at a company before they would even allow you touch their code base, right? So that's like the first one that comes to mind, which is the exposure you get by just going through this code, right? Like that's very, very important. And I advise anybody, say you're trying to learn Rust, right? You can spend some time learning the basics of Rust, which is really important, but you can just decide that, okay, I want to look for a Rust project and look for a good first issue and try my hands on it. Nobody is rushing you. You tell them you want to take this issue, especially if it's a non-blocking issue. You take the issue, you spend your time, you ask questions, and all of a sudden you have like a PR, right? It's not easy, but it happens, right? That's how most people started, right? So number two is opportunities, right? So take for instance, imagine you wanted to work at Google at Ethereum Foundation, for instance, right? You'd I don't even know if they have like forms out there. Like I don't know if they are currently hiring, right? But imagine you spend a lot of time contributing to a project that they are working on, right? The contributors are seeing you, just so you know, they are seeing you, right? So literally everything you do, especially when you do it in public places, people are looking at you, people are seeing you, right? Even online, right? So if you believe that people are not noticing what they are doing, then you're wrong, right? So take for instance, the maintainer is noticing that there's this person that's always making PRs, like, who are you? Like they're seeing your code and like maybe when you started you were like a beginner and all of a sudden you start taking more harder tasks, and before you know it, they are like, oh, this person is really growing. You easily get a job through that means than by going to apply, right? So the application process most times is a, no matter how good you are, there's a huge part of luck playing out there, right? Because you're the person that will get hired at the end is probably not the most skilled candidate, but there are other factors in a job interview and all those kind of things, right? So that's two opportunities, right? So if there's a, and these things might take time. I'm not saying it's going to be like fast, you just know, but I'm saying that people see your skills from the work you do out in the open, right? And also you can, sorry, it's very easy to know that you're a contributor to a project, right? So they'll just like you can put it on your resume that you've contributed to a project, and they can just easily go to the project and see you're part of the contributors. And if they ever want to judge more, they can go and see the code you wrote, and like that's it, right? So opportunities, you add these things to your resume, it shows that you are actually doing these things that you say you're doing, right? And also, there are some things you would not really have the privilege to work on just on your own. Let's say you're trying to work at a company that works on clients, right? You don't want to start building a client from scratch, or you might not have the time to start building a client from scratch. But if you contribute to a client, then they know you've worked on a client, right? So you don't have to start a project. Like there was a time I wanted to work on like a DevNet, right, for Starknet, but the project was so big in my head. But I ended up contributing to Beros, which is like a light client, right? So I was like, okay, I had this thing in mind. I wanted to build like a DevNet just to test my Rust skills, and along the line, I contributed to Beros, and I was like, okay, I don't really need to build a DevNet. I just need to contribute to other projects, right? I'm not saying you can build your stuff, right? That's fine, right? So yeah, so two, the opportunities, right? You can get a lot of opportunities from being open source, right? And also, even from your own, you can also make your own software open source, right? So then three, which might be the last, is just to actually learn, to explore, right? And I think it still ties to the first benefit I gave, right? Which is you just go out in the wild, you see code that you would not normally see, right? So there are really top engineers working on this project, spending their time on this project, and it's just out in the open for you to see. There's nobody telling you that. So it's more like you will learn a whole lot from open source, from the softwares out there. Free software. Just imagine they released the Stone Prover, Starkware released the Stone Prover is written in C++. If you say, okay, I want to study that code base, you learn C++, you start going through it. Even if you spend 6 months understanding the code base, after that 6 months, you will not be the same in terms of your engineering skills. I promise you. Because these things are hard things, right? And if you get to learn them, okay, first of all, you need to have the material to learn them, right? So when you have the material, which is the code base, you now start learning it, right? But normally you would normally not have those materials to learn those things, right? So very, very important, right? In summary, do open source. Go out there, look for a project that you care about, right? So one thing that might help you is to turn to a like the time you spend on Twitter, take like 25% and bring it to GitHub so you can like there's some people that are on GitHub every day following and unfollowing, sorry, following people, starting projects. Like it's actually fun to be honest, because you see projects like, oh wow, this is what, and GitHub has a way of showing you projects that you like. I don't know. I think they have like maybe an algorithm that shows you things that you like, but you just keep suggesting projects to you that people are working on, you get. So you can take some time from the time you spend on your favorite social media, bring it to GitHub, and you start seeing interesting projects, following people, and people you see projects that they're working on, and before you know, you start seeing projects that you like. Before you know, you start going through the code base, and you might as well become a contributor, right? So, in terms of like as an engineer, doing open source would really help you, right? And also, I think another thing that comes to mind is, and I think it's very, very important because we are Africans, right? If you want to be able to grow beyond this continent, grow beyond just doing something around here, you should do open source. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter who you are. You just can you do it? Make a PRO. Nobody knows where you're from. You do the PRO. You're contributing to things all around, right? And it helps you. It helps you get um those your dream jobs in quotes. It helps you get those dream jobs in quotes, right? But then it will be hard for you to convince them without them seeing your skill. But then it's more like open source just gives them your skill in the open, and they can worry about the rest, which they might not really care about because they've seen your skill, right? So nobody cares what your name is, where you're from. Can you do this thing? Right? Can you do this thing? Can you do it? And once you can do it, you can do it. It's clear. You get, because you've made a PR and they have seen your PR and they have maybe they told you to correct something, and corrected it, and it's merged, and you become a contributor, right? So there are a lot of benefits. I can go on and keep calling benefits of open source, but open source is great, right? So now, before I show you how to do open source, I want to say something, which is open source is not like, so when I've known about open source for a very long time, right? But I've always been seeing it like this big thing like that, like this thing that is hard to do. Like there was a time I'll literally go to YouTube and write open source. I watch videos or like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, how to do open source, and I'll not still do open source. I don't know. Like it's more like you're better off not seeing it as like you easily do open source without really seeing it as open source. Okay, take for instance, just imagine that you are just this guy that likes programming, right? And you go to GitHub and you see a project you like, right? And you just go to the issues. Like you've probably never heard the word open source in your life, right? But you just went to GitHub and like you're just scrolling, you now see a project you like, right? And you go to the issue, you see that they are having an issue, and you're like, you now see you're like, oh, I might have I might be able to solve this problem. And you just comment, can I work on this issue? And they'll be like, sure, assign it to you. After 1 week, you come back with the solution, they merge it. You've done open source, but you did not think about like open source. You just did it like you made a contribution to a project. And that's how open source works, right? So I think you'd be better off not seeing it as this thing that no like that is hard than actually seeing it like, in fact, don't go to YouTube and watch any video about how to do open source, right? Just do this thing I'm going to show you right now, right? So it's as simple as that, right? So open source is not supposed to be hard in terms of like doing it. I'm not saying they can give you a hard task to do. That's totally different. But I'm saying the doing of the open source, like if I was like some years ago, because I've known about open source since I started tech, but I've not done it. I just did open source for the first time this year. And I'm not like, oh, why did I take that long? I don't know. I was just like, okay, I want to do open source. I've been postponing it. I'll do it. And all of a sudden, but this year, I just okay, let me just contribute. And before you know it, like I've contributed to, let's say, 3 projects this year in the blockchain ecosystem, and it's been good. So I would share my screen and I will take you through 3 of the projects, and it's just a similar thing. They are doing something similar, just the same thing. So let me share my screen. Okay, I probably need some. Okay. If you can share my screen, please. If you can see my screen, let me know. I see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Great, great. So the first project we'll be looking into, let's just go to GitHub. Okay. So this is Lambda Ethereum Consensus Clients. This is a project being built by the Lambda team. If you don't know Lambda team, Lambda is a company that builds software, right? And they built a lot of really interesting software. They work with Starknet. Yeah, they have like provers and all those kind of things. So yeah, really cool company. So this project is basically a consensus client, an Ethereum consensus client, and it's at its early stages. So our advice, if you're someone that's very interested about clients and you want to build clients, or you're interested about how it works, I think this is a project you should contribute to because it's at its early stages, right? Most consensus clients are already really complex, and you probably spend a long time understanding what's going on. But here you have a project that's still young, and in the next 6 months it might not be young, so you might want to give it a try. There are issues, you can go there. So basically, this is how it works. So the first thing you do is to, when you come to the project, let's say you saw it on your GitHub feed, you now see it, okay, you now click it, right? I think the first thing you need to do is to check out, because most projects have like contributor guides, but this project is still young, so they have like everything on this main README file, right? But sometimes they have like this contributing or contribution.md. It's a markdown file somewhere here, most projects, but this project is still young, they still have everything. So basically, contributor package, right? So they have like how to contribute, right? So basically they are telling you what to do. Clone the repo. So like this is assuming they've already assigned something to you, right? So it's not actually nice to start working on something if that's not been assigned to you, because you might end up wasting your time. Maybe someone else is already working on it, or it will be hard to track, right? I think 2 reasons why you should always they should always assign things to you before you do them is that you, first of all, you don't spend time, you don't waste time. In fact, you should go there and check. If it's already assigned to someone, you shouldn't be spending your time working on it because someone is already working on it, right? So you don't waste your time working on something that someone else is already working on, and then you yeah, you don't spend time working on something that someone is already working on, and also it's easy to track, right? So if there's already an issue, and then once you make a PRO, there's a way to link it up, and they know that this PRO is to this issue, and the other way around, right? So you should always take an issue before. So basically, most projects have your starter guide, so to say, for contribution. So they are telling you what to do. So I think this is basic information. So just fork the repo, clone it, right, and create a branch and start working on it. But let me first go to the issues. So you see the issues here now. Let's say let me show you one I did. So I think I've worked on some issues. Okay. So this the one I worked on. This is to add there's this BLS signature scheme used in Ethereum. So basically, look at here. One of the maintainers created an issue, implementation of this. Look at me here. Can I take this? Yes, he assigned it to me. And after a while, like, see what I said? I linked up. There's a way to link I'll show you the PR I made that like, so this is the PR I made, right? And it's linked here, and then it got accepted and it got closed, right? So basically, just you see an issue you feel like you can work on, and also you also look for things that have good first issues, because good first issue doesn't necessarily mean things that are easy to do, but it just means things that based on what they are trying to do, it is supposed to be easy. Do you get? So what is easy on a small project is not easy on a big project. You get? So you should see good first issue as things that they believe will be easy for you to do based on the project, right? So yeah, always look for good first issues, especially when you're coming in for the first time, so that it will help you get your hands dirty without getting stuck, right? Based on your experience and based on what you know, right? And most good first issue are issues that, okay, not most times, but sometimes they don't like, if I just go for good first issues that are, if let's say you don't know Rust at all, you should definitely spend time learning Rust. But let's say you decide to go and you take up an issue and you don't know Rust, then you should look for an issue that is non-blocking, which means that it's not something they are looking forward to put like it's not part of like a sprint, right? So it's not something they need ASAP. If you take something that need ASAP, you might end up not, they might end up doing like just telling you that, okay, fine, look for another issue and let's just finish this up, right? So yeah, you should focus on good first issues for starters, right? Then as you go, you can you can do others, right? So how does this work? So they assign me this, right? And I'll go to because you always fork the repo, right? So this is my fork of the repo, right? So basically what I do is I try to be in sync. Okay, now my project is not okay. So if you check, the last time I made a pull, or my project is still like on the last update I made. So what I do is I update it, right? Because I want to be, you should always be working on the latest change, so that you don't end up causing conflict, or your project will not, in fact, it will not be merged because you are not on the same page with everybody. So now I've updated it. I'm on the right track. So what I do is I clone this. Okay, sorry, it's already cloned, right? So what I do is I come to my the main branch on my computer, and I pull this latest change, right? I pull this latest change and I check out. So and it's always advisable to name your branch what you're working on. So let me, okay, I can only share my tab, but I'm assuming that all of us are engineers, so that's why I'm not going to my VS Code to show you, but it's like something you would normally do. So basically, I clone the repo on my, like that's the first time, you clone it for the first time. Moving forward, you already have it now, so you just have to pull the latest change, right? So I pull the latest change. Always make sure that your main is always up to date, because you are checking out of your main. You get it? You're checking out of your main. You should make sure that your main is always up to date, right? So on the main, you check out to a branch that has the name of what you're working on. You work on it. When you're done, you make sure that everything is right. You make sure that you're like, it's very, very important to make sure that your tests are passing, because so that you don't waste the maintenance time. Because if a software is free, right, you understand that, in fact, it doesn't even have to be free. If you start maintaining a project, you know that it might be a hassle to like be going back and forth with contributors, right? So sorry, is the background noise disturbing? Can you let me know if background noise disturbing, or is it okay?
It's okay. It's okay for me.
All right. So yeah, so always make sure that your tests are passing and everything is passing, right? So that you don't, most projects have checks, right? But then just make sure that your tests are passing on your own computer, so you don't waste on another person's time, right? But if you feel like it's something that you're not able to fix, you might make a PRO and just tag one of them and say, okay, I need help with this, and they can help you. But just do your best to make sure that it's working on your computer before you push. So what happens is that after you make your changes on your branch, on the branch on your computer, you push to this particular repo. Not, in fact, you don't have the privilege to push theirs, right? So you pulled from yours, so you push back here, right? And most times on GitHub, they automatically show something up here telling you to make a pull request, right? So GitHub automatically notices that you just made a push to a repo that is not your own. So they just automatically they'll tell you to make a pull request. And when you make a pull request, it automatically goes to their side. So let me take you back to the pull request I made for the same issue I just showed you guys. So pull request, close pull request. Where is it? All right. So this is the pull request I made for this. So basically, we had like I had to ask some questions. It was not working, blah blah blah, and made some. So basically, you make the pull request, and your subsequent changes just keeps going into this place, right? So once you make a pull request using a particular branch, using a particular branch, it's your subsequent push to that branch keeps going under this pull request because they know that it is for this pull request. So I think the only change I made like are these first few ones, right? But my subsequent pushes, like you see it here, it just automatically comes here, right? So long story short, I had to fix some things, and when it was done, it got merged, right? So I think yes. So this is the part of the message that kind of links back. So basically, I said close this, and I added the number of the issue. So basically, that's why you're able to see it there. So it's basically connecting the pull request and the issue, right? So most repos have checks, right? So there are a couple of checks that would go on. Automated checks. Where are they? Okay, it's no longer here. But basically, once you make a pull request to most repos, they will like check some things like this particular repo. They will check like your tests are passing. They will check like the spec test, because this is an Ethereum client. It needs to be in par with the Ethereum specification, right? So it checks those and those kind of things, right? So yeah. So this is just and if I'll show you one more. I think I'll show you with Biros. Biros is a Starknet Lite client. Yeah, so let me just show you Biros. So at this point, does anyone have like any question before I move forward? Okay, good. So let me show you Biros. Biros says it's Starknet strange. Yeah. So this is Biros. So let's see. Issues. The same. Okay. Let me see if they have like a contributor guide. Where? Let me see. Okay, it's always good to read like the README first before you go into anything. It just gives you like a broad overview of the project. So it might even excite you, and it makes you want to work on the project. So hey, contributing, right? So basically, they said, please read our contribution guidelines. Very important. Once you see these things, by all means, go ahead and read it, right? So basically, they're telling you what to do. The same way, fork the repo, clone it, right? Go into the repo and run the test, right? So basically, the test just shows that it works on your computer. That's why you should run tests most of the time, because it might, like, if you don't install something right, it might not work. So running tests kind of helps you know that this repo works on your computer, right? So basically, they are now showing you how to do it. They are telling you that, okay, you found a bug in our source code, a mistake, or maybe a feature you might like. Take a look at the GitHub discussions to see if they already been discussed. Very important, right? To know if they're already discussing it or someone is already willing to take it, right? So You can help us by submitting an issue before you create an issue. Make sure to search the issue archive. Basically, they're telling you that before you create an issue, because you can also create an issue, right? Especially something that you actually used, right? You might try to run something on your computer and it does not work, and you try your best and find out that it's not from your end, it's actually from the software. By all means, create an issue, and they might as well assign it to you to work on it, right? And yeah, so you create an issue. Okay, so they're also telling you, like, if you have an issue, how you can go about it. They're telling you that you should basically, the summary of this is, in your issue, you should create like a series of steps for people to be able to reproduce the error, right? So most times, if you outline these things, you might find out that they might even, in fact, issues most times are not necessarily bugs. Issues most times are like, you have an issue and you are trying to solve that issue, and they might actually help you. They might help you solve it without you trying to create an trying to solve it, because it might even be from your end. It might even be that you are the actual it's from your computer, right? So you have like like what caused the error. Tell them that this is what caused the error, this is what I did, this is what I'm installing, this is my version, those kind of things, so that they will know how to help you, right? So that's that. Read the contribution guide. Always read the contribution guide. It's very important, so that you'll be able to, it will just help you have a smooth experience, a better experience, right? So that's that. Also, some projects have this thing where everybody, like people that contribute to the project, so yeah, these things are good, especially when maybe you tell someone that you contributed and they automatically see your name here. But yeah, but these things are bots do these things. So most times or sometimes it's not up to date, right? So even if give me a sec. All right. So basically, also, you can also come here, because these things most times are not up to date, right? They're not up to date sometimes because a bot actually does it. You have to ping the bot to do it, and then someone have to approve the pull request. But then you can just come here and see all the contributors. So let's go through what we just went through last time. Go through issues. Let's go to the closed issues, because I want to show you the one I did. I'll show you the one I did. Now it's been a minute, so it's been a minute. Exactly. So this is the one I did. Oh, this has actually been a while. So the June 26th ad test. So basically he created it, ad test coverage, and I was like, okay, please assign it to me, and I started working on it, right? So basically in this particular, yeah, so this is the PRO I made. If you notice, I didn't link the PRO. I didn't link the PRO previously. So but somewhere here it was linked by himself. So basically they assigned this to me and I started working on it. And this was a very long, big task, because it was basically adding test coverage. So it's more like you're looking for where the code, part of the code that needs tests, and you're adding tests to them. So it's like it's a big issue. It's a big issue to try to solve. But it was good. It was nice. I learned a lot working on it. And so let me take you to the pull request I made. So this is the pull request I made. Like if you notice, like it's a series of pull requests, like at different times. Like yeah. So basically I made a pull request. So they have another format here of, so every project have like their own way of doing things, right? So this is their own way of doing things. You have like a template, you pick what exactly you did. So I just picked testing, that this is actually added a test coverage. You might say you did a bug fix, you added a feature, you added refactoring, blah blah blah, documentation, and this is where it was linked, right? This is where it was linked. So this is where they later linked it, because when I started it, I didn't link it. I I didn't link it. So basically here they're asking you, does this code contain any breaking change? No. So breaking change means that something that would make them maybe change a lot of things. You understand? So yeah, so these are the pull requests I made, and it's all about test coverage. So basically there's this bot that checks whether the test coverage has increased and blah blah blah. So yeah, approved. That's it, right? So this is open source, right? Open source is not very complex, not in terms of what you're working on, but in terms of open source itself. It's basically, oh, there's this project I like. Are they looking for contributors? Oh, I see an issue I like. I want to work on it. That's it, right? So I think one thing that will help you be able to contribute to open source is to have the mentality that it is not something that is like hard, or it's not something that is like rocket science. It's not hard. It's more like, and the funny thing is, projects are looking for people, right? So it's not like you have to apply to even work. It's not like you have to go through a rigorous process. You just have to say you want to work on it. In fact, most times they're not asking whether you know Rust or you don't know, and they just believe that, oh, since you say you want to work on it, oh, yeah, work on it. In fact, they actually know it's a way to learn. So nobody's asking you, do you know Rust? Except it's something that's really, really urgent. They might say, okay, someone's already working on it. But most of the times um, it's more like once they see you want to work on it, they are like, by all means, go and work on it, please. Work on it, right? So it's more like they are looking for contributors, right? So most projects that have issues, like have things listed on the issues page, they need people to contribute. So once you go there, it's more like, by all means, take your time, contribute. We welcome you, right? So please, by all means, do so. So, but then if you're looking for how to in through this, I think Biros is currently on a short break, but you should check out Madara. They are currently actively looking for contributors. Madara. Also, this one too, Satoru. They're looking for contributors. So you can check out Madara. You can check out Satoru. So let me send this link. So it's basically the exploration team at Starknet. So you can check them out. I am sure that Madara and Satoru are looking for contributors. So you can go ahead and contribute. And Biros will be back soon. So it's also in an interesting project to contribute to. But right now it's on, what is this word? Hatus, or how is it pronounced? But that's by the way. So any question, any contribution? Do you think, okay, first off, so I want to ask a very simple question. Seeing this thing now, do you think open source is hard? Like you can just use like the comment section if you don't want to.
Okay. From what I can see, it might not be as difficult as people normally say it is. Some people will say you have to
Exactly.
overwork yourself before you can earn
Yeah.
or even contribute. So,
Yeah.
but I have a question to like attach to that. Okay. Um,
Okay.
I don't know if there is any like beginner project you might recommend, for maybe for a Rust beginner, something like that.
Okay. So like I said at the beginning, let's say Biros, for instance. Biros is for like Biros, like when I started contributing to Biros, I just finished Rustlings. So I wouldn't say I was like a Rust, like till now I'm not like the best Rust developer. In fact, I'm still starting out in Rust. But I just finished the Rustlings stuff, exercises, and I just picked it up, right? So, and I just picked the good first issue, right? Good first issue is always your first, most of the times, right? Most of the time, good first issue are not hard things to do, most of the times. But like I said at the beginning, good first issue get level. There are levels to these things, right? There are levels to these things. Good first issue might not be good. Like, but most of the time, good first issue are things that you'll be able to do. And also, it's also very, very good to make sure that your fundamentals are strong, right? So basically, anybody that's learning Rust, I would advise them to do Rustlings. So if you're able to finish Rustlings, you have some kind of confidence because you've probably read the book. Like, because when you do Rustling, you have to read the book because some things you'll not be able to solve. They'll redirect you to the book or Rust by example and stuff like that. So you have to go and read. And before you know it, you have a very good fundamental before you start applying them, right? So I would advise anywhere you want to contribute, make sure that you have good fundamentals so that you don't get frustrated, right? Because you might start working on something and you're just confused day and night, and you probably just like I'm not doing again. But if your fundamentals are good, right? So if you want to learn Rust to an extent that you are like finishing Rustling is a good fit. Like it means that you are putting and like you've put in effort, right? And it means that if you finish Rustling, it means that you understand Rust code. Because another thing that open source will teach you is how to read code. Because if you're able to read code, you understand that it's actually a skill in itself. Because after like maybe 1 year of actively contributing to open source, you find out how easy it is for you to now explore new code bases, right? Because there's some code bases you see like when you're just starting out, you see some code bases, you just be like, wow, what is happening here? You might even know it. You might even know it, but it's just so cumbersome for you to even start. To be like, this thing is just so complex. But after reading for a while, you understand that if you learn how to read code, it will be easier for you, right? And we are constantly learning it. Like the more you do open source, the more you learn how to read code. And before you know it, like you will be quite good at it, right? So in summary, get your fundamentals really right, then go for good first issues, right? And also it depends on how you learn. This is how I learn. There's some people that just like going head first. If it works for you, no problem. But personally, I like making sure that I have the fundamentals good, so that I don't like having to keep going back, keep going back. Yes, I want to reference things to learn, but I know that I want to know that I have some ground knowledge. I don't have to keep going back to what I would have learned. Like if I have to go back, then I'll probably just stay there and learn the fundamentals, then come back, right? So that's how I learn, and that's what works for me. But if you're someone that like going head first, by all means, you might try out, but always go for good first issues. Go for good first issues and understand and try to ask questions a lot. Like most of these projects have communities, and people are willing to answer you. Understand? Let's say Madara, for instance, if you have any question you ask there, in like sometimes minutes, someone's already answering your question and you're good to go. Right? You understand? So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Okay, does any other person have like a question or a contribution to make? I was asking a question. Yeah, you didn't send a message on the chat. Do you think open source is hard? Like, I think you can just use like an emoji. Do you think open source is hard? Just quickly, like just to like, let me see if I helped you or I actually made it more more scary. So just tell me, do you think it's hard? Like, please send an emoji, comment, let me know. I want to know whether I've I've scared you guys away from open source. The more nobody's commenting, no, nobody's sending anything. Okay. Exactly. So it still boils down to what code is all about. Akimbola said the hard part is actually solving the issue, right? Which is what program is all about. You have a problem, you go to solve the problem. So it's more like if you remove all this, in fact, you see all this picking the issue, commenting, it's not like operational stuff and like formalities. The actual thing is you are going to code, and which is what we do. We solve problems, we try to solve problems, we try to bring solutions to things, right? So like it's more like those little things here and there are just like the small things. Like let's say the operational things, telling that you want to work on it, as them assigning things to you, you're just like operational things, right? So I think also in doing the pull request and the roles following process. Yeah, so that's why it's important to read contribution guide so that you like most of the time these things are not really complex. It's just to know what they want. Like depending on how big the repo, like there are some repos that have like coding styles, and basically they have like what they really want their code to look like, right? And once you are able to read the contributor guide, you see those things and you know what to do and what not to do, right? So to be honest, I just think is once you know what they want, like most of the times the contribution guide are not that complex. But some repos, let's say for big repos like Go Eat, they might have like guidelines I should follow, their coding style, or some other things like yes, it's there are reasons why they do that. And if tomorrow you become a maintainer, you know why they do those things, right? So you just have to read their contributor guide, their contribution guide, and you'll be fine. You understand? So yeah. So does anyone have any question before we call it, before we wrap it up? Yeah. So I would assume no one has a question, and yeah, Paul, over to you, boss.
Yep. A good one there, Godspower. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. This is actually a very good one. I feel it's quite valuable for a whole lot of people, right? Considering like the fact that um let's say the state of the world right now, the economy and most of the jobs out there, I mean, requires proof of work. You kind of like need proof of work to get jobs, and contributing to open source project, just like Gospel said, is one of the ways to um to actually get yourself a job or probably contribute to a top project and get recognized, right? So yeah, and for on Starknet, I mean, you can use only those. You can also use Node Guardians to learn, but that one is just for quest and all. But for getting paid, I mean, you can use only those. We discussed that in our first community call, and I feel probably on the next we might also look at the quest on Node um guidance and yeah, explore that a bit as well. So it's actually good to have you all here. And yeah, so we'll be looking forward to the next community call. Apart from that, we are looking forward to launching another Cairo bootcamp, right? That would come up, let's say next month. Yeah, next month. Yeah, so we're actually looking forward to it. So if you have someone that wants to learn Cairo, I kind of like feel that most of you guys here are already deep into Cairo, right? So if you also want to like participate in the Cairo bootcamp that will launch, we'll have the registration link out, let's say in the next 2 weeks or so. And yeah, so we look forward to the next community call. So actually good to have you all here, and good night. Bye.